To not waste any time, I started this month with Justice League WarWorld for my Tomorrowverse video, which has been out for a bit now. Thanks for the support in that video. That's probably one of my best performing videos of the year so far. So yeah, if you're interested in what I have to say, you can go watch that. I also did a video of the Crisis on Infinite Earth trilogy that I also watched this month. And although it took a really long time for them to get good, part 3 was alright and I personally enjoyed it. But I went on a mini Al Pacino marathon this month. One of the films I watched was Donnie Brasco, and this has to be, maybe apart from the Pirates film, the best I think I've seen Johnny Depp acting. I loved his character and technically this method actor that took it a bit too far in the movie. And really with that lifestyle, I do not blame him. All the work and time away from your family just for $500 and a Medal of Honor. And you don't expect the guy to flip. Amazes me, to be honest. But you know what? Forget about it. Also, him paired with Al Pacino in this body mafia type thing was fun, and his nagging crybaby character was crazy and just perfect for Al Pacino. And on the flip side, I saw Pacino play a cop, which was new for me, well, till I remember that he played that guy in Heat. But I think the realistic approach this film took, it sort of took my Gen Z fried brain away from it, because it's not as fun as the other two Al Pacino flicks I watched. Also think that it didn't really do enough for me to be invested in the life of Serpico. We see how the job of him being this good cop is taken away from his life and the job at the start, and the film doesn't consistently show or portray that, but it just left a bit disappointed. But I did enjoy the more mature and realistic take of the police corruption that the film was trying to do, and also him trying to fight that corruption. And I also loved like his little outfits that he was putting on in this movie. But then I watched Dog Day Afternoon. This was actually the first out of the Al Pacino films I watched, and I love this one. This was just, you know, that feeling where you go completely blind into a movie, not knowing what to expect. I got this on here and I just loved it so much. And among this being my first Pacino film I watched this month, this was probably one of my favorites too. And it just also shows his range and quality and of performances that he can pull off. This was the best performance in my own opinion in those metrics too. And he was just great. He was funny. Just this out of sorts guy who doesn't really know what he's doing or really knows what he wants. Also combined with the ending and finding out that this was a true life story. At least some parts of it was just a blast. And I would say, I know it's like a true life story and most of what it's in the movie is true. It's a bit crazy and weird to me that the police didn't just come into that place blasting, unlike the Inside Man, which was referenced in this movie.
You don't want a plane, you never did. Whoever heard of bank robbers escaping on a plane with 50 hostages? You saw Dog Day Afternoon.
The cops at some points just went in blasting. And see, I hate this movie for its third act because I think it does have a nice payoff with the whole living in the bank and sneaking out of the bank thing. But see, the whole Nazi side plot paired with how they rushed that entire bank leaving scene, it just felt rushed. Especially that compared with the slower pace of the Dog Day Afternoon that I watched. Just feels like Inside Man tried to do way too much and just convoluted his plot. I also watched another Spike Lee joint, which was Bamboozled. I did not really get to watch this the best way possible. I kept on falling asleep because I was tired, not because of the quality. But the film just didn't really do enough for what I expected. It had some funny moments here. At the start, I love how Spike Lee referenced his beef with Quentin. But yeah, this is something I'll want to rewatch properly because I watched American Fiction and it's basically almost the same thing because the whole racist agenda. Also watched a couple films with black heroes in that topic, but I don't really think they're heroes technically, but I did watch Shaft. It had this hero energy, the vibe from Richard Roundtree brought to this character, and you could see how this could have been a classic back in the day. Does it age well? Not really, but that doesn't change what the film is, and I really love it for what it is. Also to add, it's a really cheaply produced film, and you can tell with some shots here, and also the way the film sounds, but the whole film's aesthetic, it just did something to me that made me bond with it, and I ended up being really invested in the middle, but it did lose me towards the end. But for what it was, I enjoyed it, and hopefully I can afford its Criterion. I also watched Ghost Dog, the Samurai of the Way of the Samurai, because it's also on Criterion. And I really enjoyed this one. It kind of felt like a John Wick infused with something else, but I can't really think of what that something else is right now. And yes, I know this came out before John Wick, but hear me out. It's not as action-packed as John Wick, but it does have its moments. But just Forest Whitaker playing this Afro ninja assassin with this swaze and this style, like the way he pulls out his gun, like he's pulling out a sword or something, paired with the music of this film, it's just this super stylized payback story. And I will say my favorite part of the film was when he was with his French friend. I just love how they couldn't really understand each other, but they still managed to communicate with each other. It was just so fun. And also when he was like interacting with that little girl too. I also watched Enemy of the State this month, and this film started off so politically that I was scared, I won't lie, but it settled down and we got to see more of that Will Smith charm. Although I did think the film had its problems, like did he age well with his depiction of hacking and satellite tracking? It did predict 9/11, coincidence? And also towards the end, I did love how they tricked the government and the mafia to have that one big shootout, and how at the end the entire corrupt government just let everything slide under the rug. But everything that just led up to that, I just was not really a fan. Not everything, but most of what led up to that, I just was not really a fan. Like that whole conversation, and also them killing Lisa Bonnet's character. Like, how could you? But still solid for the most part. Then I watched the Bourne Identity, which was always one of my favorite action movies of all time, like pure action movies of all time. Just something about this, like this guy who does not know his past or how he got where he's at the moment, and him just trying to retrace his steps, and pairs up with this one random girl that just drives him across France. It doesn't even lean in too much with his action for the most part, but just that story and wanting to see how they progress in that story. Even the Wombozi side plot that wasn't really it was important, but like it didn't really, you could have cut out of the movie a bit, but like you're still invested in all of that, wanting to see how the government tried to cover everything up, the France government or the France police force and threats done trying to chase these two fugitives. And the moment we do see action sequences like that one car chase sequence in Paris, and also the one-on-one fight sequence between Matt Damon and Clive Owens was just exhilarating. And I also watched another action movie this month, which was Transporter, and these films are just on two opposite spectrums. And I wonder what I found interesting about these films when I was younger. And see, I know the Transporter films are just ridiculous, at least some of them are. The car chase sequences are pretty good, I can't lie, I admit. In those narrow European roads, I was impressed. There's even this one that he's on this bike trying to chase his car out in this movie. It's really cool. But then there's this one scene in this movie that I can remember when I was younger, and I'm like, how does this even make sense? Like, come on. If he did it for a second, okay, that's cool. But the guy holds up the car like that for like a solid minute. Not to add the ridiculousness that they make this guy like a freaking superhero. And I know what you can say, a lot of action movies do the same thing, but no, I'm not talking about the other action movies. I'm talking about this one right now. You know, all of you can just attack him and you can probably take him down. And for a PG-13 film, I would admit they handled it being a PG-13 movie better than some films I've watched recently. I'm looking at you, Argyle. I also did Bikeriders this month, have a separate review for that. Nothing was going to make me hate that movie, and the rewatch for it made it way better. Also Babylon that I watched, and I finally uploaded a review for it. I love Babylon, so go check out that video. Also watch The Machinist, because it's The Machinist or The Machinist, I don't know. The Machinist, because this has been on my watch list for like 2 years now. And it felt like a Fight Club, but without us seeing that second personality. Well, we actually do see him, so it's basically like Fight Club. And see, it's not like I didn't like this movie or anything. It had its moments. The transformation from Christian is just crazy, and enough of a reason to just watch this movie. Also him being this psychotic individual, he pulls it off. But just the feel of the entire narrative, him fighting with the voices in his head, and him dealing with his psychosis, not knowing what is real. All aspects of the film tackling that were the weaker parts for me personally. I also watched Womb this month. And honestly, can I just forget that I watched this? Would say it's not as weird as the premise made it sound, but it still had its really strange moments. And see, the people involved in this film, directors, screenwriters, producers, all of you, are you all okay? Like, that opening, what are you guys actually doing? And the whole narrative of the film too, like, what the hell? Also decided to watch a raunch comedy this month. I've not watched one in a while, so I watched Zach and Miri Made a Porno. And see, I really need Seth and his friends to do these type of movies again. I miss them. Justin Long is in here, and I'll say his cameo is probably the funniest moments of this film.
Gorgeous. Good times.
As someone that has watched mostly all the major early 2000 raunch comedies, I don't know how I missed this one. Please don't judge me for watching all of those things when I was younger. This did not lose its step, and I loved it. Everything you expect from a movie like this, and really one of the actual good ones too. Maybe the name just kills it, so that's why I probably never heard of it prior. Also watched the Wolverine Trilogy this month. I would have dropped a separate review for all of them like a couple weeks ago, but couldn't finish editing it before my vacation, so it should come out later, because why not, let me just release it still. I also watched Snake Eyes in the middle of all of that, and the movie was Brian De Palma in his bag. Really disappointed that the whole film did not have the camera one take thing throughout the film, but the camera work at the start is just amazing. I loved when Birdman did it throughout the film, but I would say that this film did it better for me till it did not do it. as well as Nick Cage's energy in this. I just loved it, and his character and how he took this case seriously for himself. And you see, like, I don't really call him a crooked cop, but like the main motive of him taking it seriously and his personal gain from it. Then you see his character slowly get an arc. Basically, it was a bit off brand for that character to just switch up like that. Film for me loses its steam towards the end. And why does Brian De Palma always have to force romances between his characters in his movies? He did it in Dress to Kill and that other movie. I also watched Promising Young Woman in July too, and it's a really weird film. I mean, weird might not be the best way to convey what I'm trying to say, but I love it shows this real disgusting predatory nature of men trying to take advantage of intoxicated girls, like the Christopher Mintz Place scene. Like, what on earth is that guy doing? I get it, it's a pretty messed up way to go around saying it though. That was my initial thought. But when I saw the ending and everything just came together, I just saw that they handled it in a way better way than I thought it was going to be handled. And also, I might just not be the target audience for this. And girls, stay safe. And boys, don't be weird. I also watched a couple random films before I went to vacation, like End of What. This was a TikTok recommendation and I loved it. Loved the monologue at the start and the whole film's style and filmmaking being this body cam handheld footage paired with everyone in the film aside the antagonist acting like human beings made it such an enjoyable experience. That Jack Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena relationship was such a great bromance between the both of them. The chemistry, perfect pairing. There was this one scene that Jake said this something. Hopefully I can find a clip of it.
Do you want me to translate that into fucking Spanish? Into Hispanic? Whatever the fuck
and
it is.
The way the joke came out from Jake, it just came out so naturally. And I love how Jake's character does all the recording for his future kid. Sort of reminds me of me. It's finally good to have like a cop film that I can share for the good guys. And as sad as the ending was, I wish we had a more happier way to end that movie. Then I also watched The Founder and The Big Lebowski, but I watched these two films with like one eye on the screen. First, The Founder. I was worried that this whole film was going to be like Pursuit of Happiness at the start, him trying to sell his machine, but it's quite the opposite. Seeing how this one man who begged to be part of your business just ends up being this random guy who takes it away from you and just leaves you with, I know not figuratively peanuts, because $1 million even back then was a lot of money, but what he amounted to, he left you with basically nothing. Wow, The Big Lebowski. I really need to rewatch this because how do I pay like 60% attention to this film and I still love it? Make it make sense. People always say Jeff Bridges' performance was amazing in this, and I hear you for that, but John Goodman, funny as hell. Oh my god, there was this one scene towards the end when their friend died and they couldn't just pay the $180. See, I really need to rewatch this film because I loved it with just the fragments I picked up. So just imagine how much I'll love it when I actually watch it from start to finish. I also wanted to try the Wes Anderson film, so I was like, let me watch The Short, The Swan, one of his random shorts he did last year. And this man may just not be for me. Might do a binge of all of his films next month just to conclude that this guy is a fraud with a nice cinematic style. I also watched Good Time this month. I forgot to put this on my letterbox. Not my favorite from the Safdies, especially considering I went with the mentality that I was going to watch like another freaking Uncut Gems. But see, Robert Pattinson was great in this and just a fool for the most part. And it's kind of funny because I watched Dog Day Afternoon this month too as well, and seeing these two criminals that don't know really what they're doing, but one was like quite successful while this one was just a failure from the start. But I finally ended this month with Deadpool and Wolverine, and we'll talk more about this in a separate video. But if that video doesn't surface, I'm just gonna say I was not really a huge fan of this one. And it's not as if the film was bad or anything, it's just that the hype didn't match my expectations. Just feel unlike Spider-Verse, not Spider-Verse, even like, yeah, unlike Spider-Verse or even Spider-Man No Way Home, that the cameos carried that film. It didn't hit the same on here. That's not to say I didn't appreciate them. I loved seeing the characters that were shown on there. But maybe it's just like the Deadpool character and comedy for me. Maybe I liked it in 2016 when I was like 13. But now I'm older. I'm just like, it's just not funny. It feels like he's doing too much. I don't know. I did appreciate a couple things from it, but it's not as, I don't feel like it's the holy grail people are praising it to be. Hopefully I can explain myself better in that video. Then I watched TV shows, just 3 I think. I watched The Boys, I have a video on that. Still the worst it's not bad, it's just the worst in the series, and see, I love the show. I also watched The Bear. I promise I'll do a review for that, but it left me with nothing. This season also just felt different from the last two. And I might just add, I might just not be a big fan of the show as a whole. I think it's a bit too dramatic for me, because I was talking to my friend about it and I was talking about the parts I liked with the parts with the facts, and even those are my favorite moments. For example, the introduction of John Cena's character. And she said she hated them. So I also watched Sausage Party FoodTopia, and this was probably the TV show I enjoyed the most this month. Binging everything so quickly too. I also had a video prepared for it, but it just didn't feel right uploading it. But I love how most of the shows on Prime nowadays have this capitalism satire messaging. And if I haven't said anything about the show, it's way better than the movie because it does dive into the film's wackiness and it takes itself seriously in this FoodTopia, and it also explores this evolution in what the hell am I saying? It explores this evolution in food society and them trying to create this FoodTopia for themselves. It's just a fun story, and I hope we get more seasons of it. I also love how that orange guy, he looks like Donald Trump. But yeah, that just wraps it up with everything I watched in July. A bit late because of vacation, but I managed to still do it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.